guys, how's it going? Welcome to this week's recap video. We were outside doing projects this morning and got rained out.
Which is awesome.
I don't get to say that very often. Yeah, I mean, it's just pouring outside. It's beautiful. Overcast also. Can you hear that? I don't know if it's going to pick up in the mic. Do you think it will?
Yeah, it might. I'm not sure.
They're I think they're done with the bricks. I mean, done with laying the bricks for the patio and the walkway area. And they're using that leveler or tamper.
Yeah.
It's a machine that has a big metal plate that they run over the top of the whole thing, and it tamps and like kind of levels all the bricks. Because, they lay them pretty darn level, but on those rocks it can be slightly off. So they are leveling the whole thing. It's pretty loud out there right now. Also, today's video is sponsored by HoseLink, which is a company that makes retractable hoses, 82 feet and 50 foot lengths. Mm-hmm. We've shared about them so many times, and we installed one at our sister-in-law's house this year. We just ordered 4 more.
Yeah.
Because, honestly, they save so much time. They also save the whole frustration of kinking and coiling.
Yeah, that's the thing, is that you don't really deal with kinking because they're on that reel. They just come out.
Yeah.
It's, it really does solve that issue.
I think part of the problem with the kinking is that when hoses get hot, they're real flexible, right? So then you wheel them in and coil them up. Mm-hmm. But sometimes if you go against the grain of how they were coiled before, but they're flexible enough to do it because they're hot, then they get cool again, and it just messes with how the hose directs. I don't know. But it gets so frustrating. Like, I want to drop kick the hose by the end of using it, once it kinks up a bunch of times or knocks over plants because, it kind of like forms a little circle on the ground and you drag that. Anyway, that seems so loud.
Yeah. Hopefully it doesn't pick up.
Hopefully it's not bad. But you guys, HoseLink is also giving one of these away. All you have to do to be entered into the giveaway is to comment below this video, and you will be entered.
You have to say something nice.
Yes, something nice.
Nice comments only.
If a random comment chooser chooses your comment and it's not nice, out it goes. Because we can.
Have we ever showed how we pick comments?
Yes, I think we did a little video about the green stock.
Oh, yeah.
We gave one of those away, and we showed the random comment picker. Yeah. You can put in like the link of your YouTube video, and it like auto puts in all of the comments that are below that video, and then you just hit random selection, and it just picks somebody, which is like the only way to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm surprised, we never really say it much, but like HoseLink can only ship these within the 48 states, I believe. Mm-hmm. But whenever we do the random comment picker, it never seems to grab anybody international. But I'm sure people international comment on the video.
Yeah.
Even if they said something like, I wish I could win.
Yeah.
Which technically you can. You just have to pick a U.S. address to ship it to.
Yeah, friend in the U.S.
Yeah, if you know a friend.
Okay, let's get into the videos from this past week, which I haven't even opened up the document here. Hang on. First one was planting up the downtown city pots with my mom, plus a little planting at home. It was fun to be back down. My mom said that she had that project to do on her list, and she wasn't sure when she was going to be able to get it done. And I thought, I've got an afternoon that just kind of opened up. It's just dumping out there right now.
It's dumping rain.
Yeah.
We never have it like this.
It's like goalie washer style. Like, hopefully the rivers are already high. Every water reservoir in our area is already super high, which is so awesome.
I forgot to shut off the drips. Hold on.
Okay.
Running drip is unnecessary right now.
It's funny because we want the rain so bad, but our soil does not know what to do with it.
No.
It just rejects it. After a certain amount of time, it just can't absorb anymore, and then it starts to flood. My goodness gracious. Anyway, so I went downtown because I had an afternoon kind of open up where I thought I could help with this, and it would be fun just to be down there. It did feel like old times. My mom was saying that. So, and then I came home and I cannot remember what I planted, but something. Anyway, let's get into the questions. Leanne said, "I love the water tank you and Aaron have. Can you tell me who makes it?"
Okay, so I had a local company, GNR Ag. Mm-hmm. They just fabricate things like that. They work mostly with, agricultural farmers who they do mostly sprayers. So I went to them and said, can you make me one, and actually they didn't do a great job with the whole pump thing, because they normally work with sprayers, and with sprayers, you're not actually putting out a whole lot of water at any one time because the spray it's kind of like a mist that's coming out when you're spraying weeds or whatever. So I ended up getting with a different pump guy who got me the right kind of pump, and I'll put like on the screen or something the model of the pump that we got. It is awesome.
And there's a generator. There's like
and
a
then
little
there's a generator. So the way it works is there's the tank that holds the water, there's the pump, and then there's the generator which runs the pump.
So and that we don't have to. I'm sorry.
You just plug the pump in like with a regular.
It's so nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it puts out water just as fast as any of our hoses on the property, which is what I wanted. Because when you're watering pots, that's like the plight of anyone who makes a water tank is you just can't get the water out fast enough. And you don't want to be sitting there watering a pot.
I've been there. I mean, you saw how Andrew's tank works when we were down there. And I think too, you use a lot more water because it's coming out so slow. You feel like you need to give it more because you feel like it's not getting enough.
Oh, sure.
Because it's just like visually it's not coming out fast enough. So I would use through like 2 150-gallon tanks when I used to water 26 pots. I'm now like thinking back, I'm like, oh my gosh, and it took so long. And now we did 36 pots and we didn't even use a full 150-gallon tank.
Wow.
And they were saturated. Like it was good.
Yeah, I'll get the generator that we have is like a little Honda generator. They're like super common. It's like the most common little Honda generator that you can get. I love our little tank setup. And then the best part ties in with the sponsor today is I had Adam fabricate a post.
Friend of ours, who welds.
Yeah, a welder put a post on it. So you can just a 1-inch post and you put a hose link on there, and that is amazing to be able to pull out your hose, because when you're watering with just a regular hose, you have to coil it up every time
and toss it into the back of the truck, and then you have to get it out, uncoil it, water slowly, and then coil it up.
And it wants to hang on the ground. If you don't coil it just right, it's going to drag on the ground.
I've popped a hose, like popped holes in hoses because it fell off when I didn't realize, like I went around a corner and it just drug it off just enough, you know? So,
and a lot of people with hose carts, I've noticed they'll get something like an Ely hose reel, which is nice. I mean, Ely makes nice hose reels, but you can't swivel them.
Right. And you still have to the physical part.
And you have to physically, so hose link is the way to go.
When you're down there and there's like lots of traffic going down the road, you're trying to bust it out. In fact, some of the pots we don't even take the truck up to. We track down. We carry all the flowers. We bring 2 watering cans with us so that we just don't create a traffic jam. We try our hardest to be as fast as we can. Glenda said, are the pots not sponsored anymore? I didn't see any signs this time. They are not. When I relinquished control of that project, it needed to be, like my mom did it for a year. She got adoptees, people to adopt them. So when I started the project, I had people or businesses adopt the pots. And I think it was like $250 for the entire year. That covered fertilizer costs and plant costs. And I mean, I was doing this as cheaply as I could so that the cost wasn't super high. So they would adopt the pot, and then I had a plaque in each pot that said who adopted it. But after my mom did that the first year, she was like, she got with the city because they wanted to add more pots too, 10 more. And she was like, this is just...
It's very time consuming to get sponsors.
Yeah, so the city is now footing that cost. Andrews is still footing a lot too, though. They send out people all the time to water pots on the weekends, fertilizing, all of that stuff Andrews is still responsible for, not to mention sending people out to clean them out and plant. Anne said, did you mention what your plans are for the wheat? I think I planted stuff in the cut flower garden is what I did. Now that you mention it, I was out by the wheat. So my plans for the wheat this year was just to, see if I could grow it, see how it would do, and it's gorgeous. I'm so happy with it. My plan was just to have my family over, and we're going to do a harvest night and a wreath making night, and we may film it. It's just going to be so much fun, and it'll be fun to have it here instead of having to find a field that's got a little bit of extra, and then we have to locate the farmer that owns it and get permission. They're always super nice about it, but going out and doing that, it just takes a ton of extra time when we could just grow it here. So it's not really the type so much that I would want to mill for flour. I think I'm going to do a hard red wheat, something like that next year. I was talking with my dad about it, and he was telling me all the different types of equipment that I was going to need to get, and my mom is just super excited.
Do you need to cut the water to the wheat at some point?
Not that he told me. I don't know. It seems like you should.
I think farmers do that, right?
Yeah, probably. I probably should ask.
Yeah.
It's looking really good now, and I know that we typically harvest. I see harvest going on sometime in July, end of July or so. So we're getting closer.
Yeah,
maybe sooner than that.
I mean, I don't think it'll dry out if you don't cut the water.
Probably not. Well,
it'll just stay green, right?
I don't know. I've never grown it before. This is a new situation for me.
You might even be at the point where you need to cut it now.
Possibly.
We should look into that.
We should. Susan said, how many loaves of bread would that bed produce if you wanted to? Do you know? I don't know. I do know that type of wheat, it's called Ovation. It's a soft winter wheat, and it produces like 80 to 120 bushels per acre, which a bushel is like, I can't even remember. Is it like 60 pounds?
Kevin from Epic Gardening tried to make a loaf of bread with, he didn't have a lot of wheat. He had quite a bit less than what you grew. And he was able to make, I think, like about a half a loaf.
How funny.
But he had a pretty small plot too.
Righty. Right.
So, I don't know. Based on watching his video, I would think you could probably, with your area, do a few loaves,
I would think
maybe 3 or 4.
Well, just to give you an idea, an acre is 43,560 feet, and I'm growing square feet, and I'm growing 300 square feet. So, it would make more sense though if I could say how many pounds are in a bushel. Maybe we could put that in the little calculations on the screen there, because my internet is just down, not working. But anyway, next year, it might be something I tackle doing a larger patch, depending on if I can find some, probably antique equipment, I'm guessing, because I don't have a combine, anything like that. So anyway, what? I see the wheels turning in your head. Like,
big old combine just going down that one little row.
Path. Maybe I could just grow enough for a combine to do one pass.
Well, you'd have to have a tiny little combine.
Well, maybe there's probably a farmer I could bribe to get here with a tiny little combine.
Who would have a tiny little combine?
I don't know.
I don't think that exists.
Well, what's the size of a combine? How wide?
Like huge. I would think like 20, 30 feet wide.
Oh, well, that's easy. I'll just plant that much in a big wide swath.
Oh, I thought you meant harvesting in the spot you have now.
No, I mean harvest.
Look how you fit that in there.
I was like, this is not a problem. I don't know. Yeah. And the new property next year.
Yeah.
Okay, Audrey said, so who waters those pots downtown? Is that your responsibility also? So the city guys do it during the week, and Andrew's employee does it on Monday, and they skip Sundays now. They just water them heavy on Saturdays. Yeah.
The city does it on Saturday?
No, the Andrews does.
Oh, gotcha.
The city does it during the week. Wendy said, have you seen the buzz around electroculture? Would be fun to see you experiment with it. I hadn't even heard about it. So no, I haven't seen any buzz about it. I hadn't even heard of it until maybe the past month or two. A friend of mine, her sister was into it.
I haven't heard about it until 10 seconds ago.
It is using electricity somehow to stimulate growth in plants.
Like you put like some electrodes to
the
leaves of your plants
in the ground.
Or something? Oh yeah, maybe.
I have no idea how it works. Or anything about it.
Yeah, do you just like put a low voltage current to the ground or something?
I do not know. Charla said, question about chelated iron. Is it safe to use as a foliage spray when fruit is present on your strawberries? Well, I did. So what I did, Aaron came by with his tank because he was doing watering with some chelated iron, and he had a little bit extra, and my strawberries always need iron. So I tried to stay as close to the roots as I could. I didn't use it as a foliar application. And then I went through when I was done and just did a quick rinse with regular water. And then I went back and ate a couple of the strawberries because I thought, ooh, is it going to taste like iron? There was not a trace of any kind of taste on them. And our strawberries are loaded. So I think we're good. Just be careful not to drench your plant and then not rinse it. Gardening Grandma said, don't leave us hanging. What did Benjamin cook for you? Is he an aspiring chef? Benjamin just told me yesterday he is going to be the president of the United States. He said he's going to be the leader. He's going to be the leader of the army, and he's going to be the leader of us, he said. And I was like, okay. Yeah. And I just told him, you're going to have to work really hard. You're going to have to work really hard in school and be very dedicated, and I will support you all the way.
I told him he's, a good idea might be to go to law school if you want to be president.
And he said, good, I'll do that while I'm in the army.
Yeah. I was like, well, if you want to go to the army, you can do that for a few years, and then army might even pay for your law school after that.
He's big into army men and tanks and that kind of thing right now. It's pretty sweet. It'll be interesting to see how he changes or not through the years. So when we got back in the house, he was like, "Are you hungry?" And I said, "Yeah, I am hungry." So he said he pulled the chair out and had me sit down, and then he got the pot out of the cupboard, put it. I taught him about the stove, he knows about which way to do the handle, how to turn it on and off. what to look for with the red, the red light. And he got tomato soup out of the cupboard, but not just tomato soup. Like, he got it all prepared and mixed, and he got everything out. He then went and got a cutting board, and he has his own set of like child-proof. Well, it's not child-proof. They're child knives, kids' knives. They're like plastic, but they still cut stuff. And he was like, "Where do you get those like long green tubes?" And I was like, "Long green tubes, like a straw, or like what?" He meant green onions. I said, "Do you mean green onions?" "Oh yeah." Anyway, he got him out, and he chopped up those green onions, and he garnished my soup with that. He ladled it out and brought me this hot bowl of soup. And what else did he? Oh, he gave me a plate that had some baby carrots on it, and then a little package of Oreos. And he told me, don't eat anything until you have your soup. But when you get to your plate, you eat those carrots before you eat those cookies. I had very strict instructions. Next video was planting the pots at our church, plus planting sunflowers, corn, cosmos, and sweet potatoes. That kind of turned into a 2-day project because it was over a weekend. And sometimes we'll start a project and then, I want to do something different or spend time with the kids or whatever the case may be. So it spanned over 2 days, but it was nice. We took the kids, we went through McDonald's, got breakfast, and then took the kids to play at the church on the play equipment. They just got a new set there, so it's very exciting. And then while they were doing that, I planted up I think there was just 7 pots, if I remember correctly. 1,
Sounds
2,
right.
3, 4, 5, 6, 7, maybe 8, 7 or 8. Anyway, 3L Lala said, "Is there an overflow hole for the self-watering pot?" Yes, there is. So it's toward the bottom. It's like if the water subs up a certain amount, it goes over a lip inside and then out the overflow. So those are all open. When we get rain like this, it would be a consideration for sure. Erica said, "I love what you do. I've been wondering for 2 seasons now. You seem to not be using bubblegum Super Tunia much anymore. Why is that?" I just didn't even think about it this year. I mean, you go through seasons where you use something a lot.
You had some.
Not this year. I have 0.
Really?
0.
0 bubblegum.
And it's weird because I didn't do that on purpose. It just,
Wow.
like, I planned for other things for other projects.
Do you know what? I like Bermuda Beach more than bubblegum, the color.
Really?
Personally.
I like the older Bermuda Beach better than the improved Bermuda Beach.
I like the improved better than the old one.
Really?
Yeah.
The older one had a very soft salmon look, and now it's like a coral. Which
It's more
probably,
vibrant now.
Yeah, it's like more of a coral. I am kind of getting to the point where I'm realizing that I'm not loving coral as much as I like salmon.
Oh, huh.
Yeah, it's just coral has more of an orange, like a warmer, more tropical orange vibe, which does work in a lot of cases. But that salmon color is just very soothing to me.
Well,
but
you know what? Everybody's entitled to their own wrong opinion.
He's so nice. Karen said, "Would you need to check in on the pots at your church more than once a week?" I don't take care of them. I just plant them. That's it. My job is done. It's perfect.
I think
Trina does.
Yeah, Trina.
Yeah, Trina, who bought our old house, our townhouse. She lives in our old garden. Brandy said, "Do you cut the tops off your onion plants? My mom told me to and said it makes the onions bigger. I haven't done that yet and didn't know if I should." I never have once they're planted out. The only time I've ever trimmed them back is when they're still in their trays. If they get a little bit too tall, you can go through and keep them, cut back a little bit. Oftentimes when you buy them down at the garden center or wherever you're buying your onion starts, if you didn't start your seeds yourself, you'll see that they've been cut back as well. But once they're out in the garden, I don't mess with them. And we have pretty good luck with nice big onions. It depends on the variety you're growing though too. Some onions are just smaller than others. Ashley said, "I really love you and your family, Laura. You bring so much joy to many people's lives and I'm very grateful for all that you do." That's very sweet. Question, when is Samantha and Benjamin getting a new sibling? They're not. We're done. 2 is enough for me, for sure. You just asked me the other day, like, what do you think about the people who have like 5 and 6 kids? I'm like, well, if they do it well, they do it well.
My question was, do you have respect for
if they
women
do it well?
who
Yes.
have that many?
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
And we know a lot of families who have lots of kids and they do it well. And it just, like, I have big time respect for people who can manage all of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, but no new siblings for Benjamin and Samantha. So everybody
there was a conversation at one point that went something like, are you guys done? Yeah. Oh, so you're fixed? No.
So
you're not done. I don't think it wasn't even me. It was like somebody was relaying the conversation that they had with someone.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
How funny. No, done. Sandra said, "How are the arbs that you planted at your church? Are they doing well?" Yes, they are. We should go show those one of these days.
Yeah.
They're doing really well. They look great.
Hopefully they don't need to be tied up.
Yeah.
Like our
Well,
arbs look really good though
They do.
once they got tied up. I just am really hopeful that tying them doesn't harm them in any way.
I don't think it will.
I don't know.
I mean-
Do I need to cut the string off like next year maybe?
Maybe, but you didn't like tie them tight around branches, did you? Individual branches?
No, I
Just did a
most of the
ring.
time I actually did a ring
I think
around
you'll
the
be fine
entire
then.
thing.
I think you'll be fine because they're not they don't get so enormous that they're gonna like start to envelop the string.
Yeah.
You know, I don't think. I mean, I think it's something you should keep your eye on. But
Sure.
Jennifer said, I read that sunflowers secrete an allelopathic chemical.
Allelopathic?
Allelopathic, is that how you say
I
it?
think it's allelopathic.
Alleo? Oh, anyway.
I could be totally wrong.
Who cares? It's chemical. To slow the growth of surrounding plants. Have you experienced this or worried it could happen in your garden? I've heard that too, and no, I'm not worried about it. I have not experienced it.
I think it's within a pretty like small area.
And I wonder how long it lasts because like we have roses planted right where I had a ton of sunflowers planted last year.
I got the sense that it was like you have to have active sunflowers.
Oh, like during the
No,
growing
yeah,
season.
not
Oh,
like from a previous year.
well, you can tell that I haven't really thought about that very much.
Yeah, nor has it been an issue.
No. Yeah, I don't think I would worry about it.
I have seen that though, where like one lady had onions that and they got worse and worse and worse the closer she got to her sunflowers.
Really?
It was like she capped each of her rows of onions with sunflowers, and they were like great, okay, not so great, really bad, right up to the sunflower.
Interesting.
So I think it's legit.
Yeah, we'll see. I've got corn plant. Well, we'll have corn planted right up next to the sunflowers. Everything is up, you guys. That cedar worked so great. And if you think I plant a lot, so Bethany was watching. You know, Bethany who works for us. She was watching that cedar, and then she's like, "Hey, can I borrow that? I'm going to plant 500 feet of corn." I was like, 500 feet? She's got a huge garden space, so like, kind of puts mine to shame in a lot of ways. And she's really good about like.
How nice to have the cedar to do that.
Yeah, she said it took them like 15 minutes to go through and plant it. And I'm so happy. I did go through twice in a lot of my areas because I just didn't know if I could trust it, you know? And I did not want to have even any time wasted planting, so I wanted to make sure there were seeds in the ground. So I would go down the row once with the cedar, and then I would just go back over it one more time, and they're just coming up beautifully. But anyway, I've got corn planted and then a blank spot where I'm going to plant corn probably at the end of this week, so I have a succession planting. And then the sunflowers start, and then there's cosmos after that. So we'll see. We'll see if anything is adversely affected. And Doreen said, does Biotone need to be stored at a certain temperature? I asked because I purchased a mycorrhizae product which says you cannot allow it to get too cold or too hot, which is apparently because you would kill the beneficial fungus. Just curious if it's the same for Biotone.
I want to say that's true. I
Yeah.
don't know what the range is, but I want to say that's true. I don't know.
Next video is This Is Going to Be Beautiful, which you titled.
Yeah, it's a very apt title for, it explains exactly what happened.
What was that video?
It was the TVCC one. Part 2.
Okay, part two. So we planted the gym bed and 11 pots. I think that's it.
Yeah, I think so.
Right? Yeah. Well, I mean, to say that's it. It was a big day.
Yeah.
For sure. No Dig Nebraska said, I can only imagine how well this will look in a month or two. Can you think of any plants that are perennial that are somewhat like a petunia?
Not for us.
No. I don't expect any perennial to flower like a petunia, but is there something out there that is somewhat similar, even if it's more of a shade-loving plant? The best plant for purple color, anyway, is Nepeta. I mean, I guess I'm thinking Super Petunia Bordeaux, but like for color throughout the garden, throughout the season in a perennial form.
Lamium does really well in the shade for us.
Yeah,
like
Lamium
that
is
gives
awesome.
blooms for a lot of the year.
So do hardy geraniums, so do pincushion flowers, Nepeta. Salvia is great for a couple of really good flushes, but we do cut that back. Same with Nepeta, but it seems to flush faster. What are some other really good? Coreopsis, skullcap.
There's a reason the annuals are as popular as they are.
Yeah.
Like for us, we can get between 5 and 6 months of blooms out of a petunia, say, and there's nothing that compares to that.
Right. Blueberry Hill Farm said, do people ever approach you when you are filming in public? Yes. Yeah, they do.
Actually, do you remember the one time? It wasn't this year. I think it was last year. We were planting at the college, and this girl came up, and she looked young, like college age. And she was like, "Are you Laura from Garden Answer?" And you're like, "Yeah." And she goes, "My grandma is a huge fan." And we were like, "Nice."
Perfect. I love it. Gay said, "Just wondering, how long have you been doing this project at the school? Who took care of it originally?" This is our third year. And there was some kind of a program or something before we did it.
Well, I think that they used to use that greenhouse to grow plants. And then, like with anything, there's, people come and go. And like somebody had a passion for doing this a certain way. And, they're not there anymore. And so I think it was they approached us and just kind of asked if we had any interest. Like they didn't ask anything specific. They're just like, "We know you do gardening. What do you think?" Because I think they kind of saw the writing on the wall that like no one was going to do it. And they're like, "You're kind of our last, hope.
Last resort here."
And it worked out.
Yeah, it did. It really did. Banana Rose 4 said, "I recently bought some Super Tuny Vistas and they're really leggy. Should I trim them up a little or just leave them be?" You could leave them be and they will fill out, but you can trim them as well, and that will kind of rejuvenate, give a little bit of extra energy to new growth. So, I just planted some Super Tuny Bordeaux behind the Hartley that probably could have used a trim before I planted it, but for the video purposes, I wanted there to still be color on the ends of them, so I didn't. I may go back through and trim them, but all likelihood, I'll probably just leave them and they'll fill in. Steve said, "Did the success of the roses make you consider adding more shrubs and possibly perennials over time, so there's something enduring in case the day arrives where you no longer have the time or energy for the annual planting, or maybe just reduce the area that needs to be planted each year?" The roses down there, I am just blown away by the success of those, and it's only because they're being taken care of so well. Rosa does an amazing job, and it was kind of one of those situations where I planted all these things. They look like sticks when I planted them. Maybe they had buds. I can't even remember if they even had leaves starting to show up. And I did toss a bunch of Biotone starter fertilizer down in the hole, which I always do. And then I heard that like bare root stuff don't get fertilizer on their roots. It can burn their roots. And I was like, oh, great. Well, I just put a bunch in all around the roots of these roses. They're totally fine. I think the worry is using synthetics.
Sure. And
too much of it up against bare root stuff. So I think we were okay because I kind of mixed it in the soil underneath. It wasn't like up against the roots.
That's the nice thing about that Espoma fertilizer is that like...
There's a really hard way, or it's really hard to get it wrong.
Yeah.
Is that right?
It's hard to ruin your plants, I think, with the Espoma fertilizer.
Right.
Which is nice. Some people, I've seen posts occasionally that are like, these plants are looking bad. Do you think it was the fertilizer? And I'm so happy to see all the comments. They're like, there's no way. Like the people who know using Espoma stuff, they're like, there's no way that it was the fertilizer that did that to your plants.
Right.
Because like, it's too... It works, but it's too mild.
Yeah. And those roses are so robust and starting to bloom. They look so good. Sherry said, "I'm curious as to why you've been using the Proven Winter slow release fertilizer for your annual containers more this year than the Espoma Flower Tone."
Because we have a bunch of it.
I always use I don't use flower. We tried 1 year using the Flower Tone instead of using.
Yeah.
I don't use the Espoma fertilizer in with my annual containers unless I'm using Biotone in to recharge some of the soil underneath, or if I'm putting digging the boxwood spirals out and planting them afresh in a new pot. I did add Biotone in that case, but I don't use it as a fertilizer for annual flowers. You
would use it again if that's what we had extra.
If that's what we had, yeah. But I typically use it's like little. What do you call them? Granules? The Proven Winners continuous release?
Yeah, it's granulated.
That's
fertilizer.
Typically what I put in there.
Yeah.
We kind of go back and forth. It
little bit. It just depends on what we have. Like we might use Biotone, we might use Plant Tone, might use Flower Tone, and we might use the Proven Winners granulated fertilizer.
I want to say if I use fresh soil and if I'm out of Proven Winners granulated, I don't go toward Plant Tone or Flower Tone. I may use a tiny bit of Biotone.
Yeah.
Maybe. But we fertilize on a weekly basis with water soluble. The only reason why we put the granulated in is just in case we have a week where we can't, or whatever. They're highly productive plants, and I think they utilize the food if it's there. Next video is pretty window box flowers for shade in a few full sun containers. That was a satisfying project.
They look good.
I love them. The first year that all the window boxes have matched. I remember every year you're like, why didn't you order enough for all of them? I'm like, I don't know. I don't know why I didn't. I just didn't.
Right.
Maybe it is sort of hard, even though we're ordering like large quantities for the college, it's still hard for me to stomach like putting a lot of flowers down for one specific project. I mean, we've got some leftovers from the college that we're going to be putting in the ground here, and there's a few other places we're going to be using them as well. So maybe that was the hold up on that one, but it was just so fun to have them all matched. And we did try the Medusa Green sweet potato vine, which I'd never planted before. And then what else? I did do a couple more sun containers, the ones just out from the balcony. And I did use some of the new plants. There's the Vintage Coral Super Bells and the Super Tunia Bermuda Beach, the new one. And then out in the cut flower garden, I just used kind of a menagerie. I did use a Saffron Finch Super Tunia, which is a new yellow one. I think that's the only new one I used. I did put an upside kiwi, is it kiwi lime or upside lime or something, sweet potato vine that
I'm kind of interested about that, if it actually grows.
Yeah. Okay. Deb said, I have a question. If you put Biotone Starter in when you plant, how long before you get on a weekly fertilizing schedule? So you use liquid or granular fertilizer? We get on annual flowers, start using it right away. Not the first watering, but like within that first week, wherever it falls. We fertilize on Tuesdays, so if we plant on a Monday and water it in, it gets fertilizer Tuesday. If we plant it on a Wednesday, it has to wait until the following Tuesday to get its first fertilizer.
All those fertilizers are slow release.
Mm-hmm. Well, the water-soluble one, though, is more of a quick shot.
Oh, yeah. The granulated ones is what I mean.
Sure.
So, like, they're not going to take that stuff up immediately, but they will take up the water-soluble right away.
Loves of Junebug said, where are the window boxes from? How do you protect the house siding from moisture, and do they drip all over the porch? Window boxes are from Plow and Hearth. They sent them out to us years ago. I've toyed with the idea of painting them black every single year, but I think they would look like a black hole because it's all shaded. Mm-hmm. I think it would contrast the plants nicely, but even when I use darker plants, they recede into that shade and you can't see them as good. And how do you protect the house siding? The window boxes were installed with a board behind them, which actually bumps them out from the house. So no part of them is actually sitting on the house. And do they drip all over the porch? Yes. No protecting from that unfortunately. Deb said, didn't you used to have drip in the window boxes? We did. It just didn't work out quite as nicely as we hoped. We accessed it over there by the big silver container that I did plant up in this video as well. And we ran a white tube, the white tubing from Proven Winners, because it matches the white side of the white siding. And we ran it along like at the same level as the window boxes are, and then we would just tap into it when we got to a window box. But by the time you went all the way around the house, it was just too long of a run. I think if we had less window boxes or less distance to travel, it would have worked really well, but it just wasn't consistent enough. And it's
my rule now with the 1/4 inch drip tube is 25 feet, no more than 25 feet with 1/4 inch, and no more than 25 gallon per hour worth of emitters.
Gotcha.
So just do the math. If you're putting in 2 gallon per hour emitters or half gallon per hour emitters, you can't get to more than 25 gallons per minute, and you can't go past 25 feet. Otherwise, you will start to see degradation. Like the ones at the end won't drip as hard, and the ones at the beginning will drip harder, and then you're not getting equal water. So that's my rule.
It's just easier at this point to hand water those, and they'll probably need water every 3 days or so in the shade where they're at, unless we have a super windy day or something. So it's just a matter of walking by, finger testing the soil and giving them a little shot if they need it. Cindy said, just wondering, when you comment about packing in the plant to make sure there are no air pockets, what happens if you don't? The roots right there will dry up and die off if there's air pockets that aren't handled. Sandy said, how many of the same white shirts do you have, and how many times did you change during the making of this video? I have one white shirt, and I did not change it during this video. I only started to get dirty when I started to play with Samantha that night. Samantha, man. She likes to get dirty. But yeah, I typically wear black. I started off with a blue shirt today, and I was even kind of like, ooh, I don't know, because I carry a lot of things up against my body because it's just easier on my body not to hold it out. So I was surprised I wasn't all dirty after that. Michelle said, Laura, it all looks so fresh and love the color. What a wonderful video to start my day. I wanted to ask you, is Monica doing any more to her backyard? Well, maybe by the time you see this, you may have seen the next video over there. We got her raised beds done, and they look awesome. It made me want to go back there. We didn't have enough time to fix the arbor wall in the back. Oh. And I kind of just wanted to like block that off to show you the raised beds because it was a beast of a day. It actually took like 2 days of, not 2 full days, but Monica came over one evening during the work week and we started to prep to build the first one just so we could kind of prototype and make any adjustments that we needed to. We couldn't even get it done in the evening. We ended up not having the right brackets for that. And then a couple days later, I took a whole afternoon and I did all the cutting. I cut all the boards. We got the proper brackets. I put together one of the beds in the garage, just on the floor, just so I could see it turned out perfect. So once all the things were cut, Monica came over at 9 o'clock Saturday morning, and I didn't leave her house. Like, we finished all the assembly as much as we could here, and then we took all of the raised beds over there and put them together, kind of just like a puzzle, once we got them there. But I didn't leave her house until after 7 that evening. So it was a day. We mulched and filled them, and I mean, whew, it was hot. It was a hot day. Anyway. So yeah, hopefully you'll have seen that. And then we've got maybe one more work day over there left where I'm going to do drip and mulch and we'll fix the arbs. Julie said, do you elevate your pots when they sit on concrete? Would you talk on this issue? I do try. I love pot feet. You can get terracotta pot feet, glazed ceramic pot feet. I've ordered some beautiful, they're Gothic, like they're from Unique Stone and they're bigger.
Yeah, those are cool.
Those are really cool. Also we've ordered, they're like little black square kind of rubber, like real...
They're just like little rubber blocks.
These are little rubber blocks on Amazon, and
they're cheap
too.
And
I cut them. So they're usually like this big, and I'll cut them in 4s and use little pieces. As long as you have 3 or 4 under a pot, and I just need it raised up just enough to accommodate the drip tube, and it does save your surface a little bit too. If water drains out, it has a chance to get away instead of just accumulating under the pot. It'll still accumulate under the feet, so you're not out of the woods completely, but it's less than seeing the big rain. Is that just like
surface tension on the water? It just like gets to the edge of your pot and then just stays there.
Yeah. Jason said your property looks so good during the day. Do you have any lighting set up to where you could be doing the dishes at night and still see some beauty when it's dark?
It's in the works.
Yes. Andrea said your window boxes are impressive. How is the rose garden doing? I wonder if you've already some new developments there. The rose garden's doing really great. Everything looks good. There were a couple roses that I was like, we had a real cold night after I planted them. It got like 27 or something. And some of the top leaves, because they were shipped in, and I don't know if the weather was maybe a little more mild where they came from, so I don't know if they were acclimated. They did okay. I had to trim off a little bit of the tops, and a couple of them looked a little puny, but I think we're doing good. And we've got blooms. It's funny. You see like 2 little sticks and a giant bloom on the top of this tiny little plant. Margaret said, do you have any advice on keeping trees in pots all year in Zone 5B? First one is to make sure that whatever tree you put in there is rated at least to a Zone 3. You want a 2-zone buffer. So 2 zones lower than your growing zone. So for us, we'd need a Zone 4. I fudge that a little bit. A lot of times I'll put a Zone 5 in. I think Bloodgood Japanese Maple that I have is a Zone 5. You do want to make sure to keep them on a every 2 to 3 week watering schedule as well. Don't miss out on watering. If they dry out, that's when you lose them more than anything else, I think. And you want to make sure your pot's big enough too. I mean, choose a large pot. I know it makes it heavy. It's more expensive to fill, but when you're going to the effort and to the expense of planting a tree in one, you want it to survive. And it also makes it better for windy areas. It makes it heavier at the bottom.
And don't put a bunch of plastic at the bottom.
I was just going to say that. Don't fill it with other random stuff. Just fill it with dirt.
It doesn't create any insulation at the bottom.
Yeah.
It's just going to be a bunch of cold air right there at the bottom, right at the roots.
Yeah. Yeah. Just fill it with soil. Just know that that's part of it, when you're budgeting for that specific project. Next video was late May garden tour. We just decided to get out. We have been good with the garden tours this year. I'm so proud of us.
I think we've done like 3 or 4 tours already. 4, I think.
Has it?
Yeah.
Feels like that.
We start to lose steam in garden tours around this time as things get hot. Because, it gets to 100 and then, your stuff starts to suffer.
Yeah,
in this
starts
area.
To look sad.
You don't really want to show it when it's like, it just feels like you're just limping it until fall.
Yeah. Alice said, I noticed you didn't deadhead the tulips once they were done, so they're creating seed heads. I thought you were supposed to deadhead so that the energy goes back to the bulb rather than creating seed. What are your thoughts? Yes, that is the proper way. Just haven't had time. We're actually working on that a little bit today, and we've done a little bit this week. So, yeah. At 3217, did we find out what that was called? It's so pretty. Yes, I had to go way back in our videos because I could not remember. It's a Jolene Beauty Bush. which is a type of Colquitzia. So when I planted it, I was kind of like, oh, we'll see. It says it's a zone 4 through 8. But let me see what it says. I had to look it up here. It says it prefers alkaline soil. So as long as it can do alkaline soil and it does our winter zone, we should be great. But all 3 of them that I put in the ground, they're so beautiful. So gorgeous, the blooms are. Nadia said, do you ever regret planting that instant Karma elderberry in the West Garden? It seems like they all want to outgrow their spots. I do not actually regret. I think most of them are at their full size, so they're not going to get much bigger than they are now. I did train the one into a tree. I need to do a little pruning on it. I did take it up to where you can walk under it now, but I need to get into the center and clean it out. I like the other ones. I kind of like the other one along the pathway, that's kind of largish. It's right after that last urn. I kind of like that it visually blocks the rest of it a little bit for some reason.
I do think you need to turn that one into a tree as
well. I might do that, but I kind of like that it's like right now they're getting ready to bloom too. And those blooms just kind of like nod right above the walkway, and I just love it. Diane said, do you ever just pinch yourself to make sure you're not dreaming? Yeah, yes, I do. I was actually thinking that as I was driving in the powder dirt on the new property. I was like, never did I was by myself out there, and I can't remember what I was doing. Anyway, I was thinking that I can't believe that I'm planting it, that I have the space to plant in and to try new things out. And I think I was driving away from the high tunnels where we have all of our plants, and I was thinking, that's awesome. Like, I wouldn't have ever dreamed, all of it. It's just amazing. She says, as soon as the drone tour started, I was in tears at the beauty you have created. I think starting with the drone footage was really fun.
Yeah.
I didn't watch the whole tour. I watched like the first 4 minutes of it, and then I went and took the kids up for a bath.
Yeah.
But I watched enough of it to see the drone footage at the beginning, and that was just very centering, I think. It just gives you kind of a perspective of overall what things are looking like right now, and then the tour shows you a little bit closer up, what's going on. And I feel like we are coming along. We're starting to like gather it in, like some of the... You guys, I don't know if you're going to see by the time this one comes out, but the stone path in the garden, South Garden's done, and another one is almost done, and we have spots for 2 more that will they might even be done
next week.
It looks so good, and it's bringing me life. Like, it just seeing that structure, then all of a sudden it just gives me a bunch of ideas as to where like bigger, evergreens can go. We took a date day yesterday, Aaron and I. We just realized it's been a while since we've been just the 2 of us, and then also just been a while since we've had a day off. So we went to Boise yesterday, but I had my notebook out, and we were listing out all the different flower beds and where we each feel like we could add a shade tree or an evergreen, and we might make a trip out to Jaker and see if we can find some larger things to pop in the ground yet this year. So I don't know, it's really fun. Rosemary said, does your wisteria bloom, and do you have to trim it in order for it to bloom? So we kind of shaved ours up just a little bit last year just to keep the wild down, but this is the first spring it has ever bloomed since I planted it like 5 years ago. I don't know what the difference is here. It's very weird. Gorgeous. Orion's Bell said, please, does anyone know the name of that climbing rose at 1408? That is a Colette climbing rose. I'm surprised I didn't mention it.
Oh, really?
I don't know. I feel like I would have. But they're just coming into their prime right now. I mean, just gorgeous. Ria from the Netherlands said, I'd love to see the development of your garden, especially the planting of your trees, shrubs, and perennials. I wonder why you don't plant the most of your trees and shrubs in the autumn and early spring like we do over here. We have a sea climate, I think zone 7. That's the recommended thing anyway, is to do spring and fall, no matter where you're at, I think. When it's cooler, less taxing on the plant, but our job is to garden all the time. Yeah. So we keep planting all the time, no matter when it is. As long as you keep an eye on it and keep things watered properly, most of the time we're okay. Just carrying on.
We've had some things that we plant in the spring and they don't make it. And then we've had some things we plant in the summer in the heat and they survive. You can do it whenever. It's just, there's some things that are unavoidable.
Generally recommended though when it's a little cooler out.
Certainly you have to baby it less. Because when you do it in the heat, you got to keep, if you miss the watering.
Which I have before. Like I've planted that Weigela up in the front garden before. I planted it, and in my mind, it becomes kind of muscle memory to put drip in. In my mind, I had done it. I had not done it. And I didn't go look at it for the next couple of days because I was busy doing other things. And I wasn't thinking that it wasn't getting water. I thought it was fine. It died.
Yeah.
Sad. And last question for today. Holly, what is the BT Laura is going to use in her vegetable garden? That is the same stuff we use for budworms on Supertunias and Superbells. It's Bacillus thuringiensis. It's a type of bacteria found in the soil, and it only targets caterpillars. So it's not going to hurt honeybees that are buzzing around. You don't have to be as careful with it like as when you're spraying it, and the caterpillars have to ingest it in order for it to kill them.
Sometimes the bottle says Thuricide.
Yeah, Thuricide. So you might see like the moths flying around that create the caterpillars. It's not going to kill the moth, but it'll kill the caterpillar that they create or that they come from and then create. So anyway, I really feel like of all things to spray, I feel pretty good about that one if I have to. And I'll let quite a bit of plant damage on vegetables, not on our flowers, but I'll let quite a bit of damage happen before I'll actually spray a vegetable with something. And that is it. That is it for today's recap video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you HoseLink for sponsoring. Remember guys, the giveaway, just leave a comment below, a nice comment below this video, and we will choose a winner probably in about the next week or so and let you guys know. Anyway, we're gonna have to go figure out what we're gonna accomplish the rest of the day with all the rain. It's just still pouring outside. It's just like pouring off the roof. Planning.
Future planning.
Yes. So there you go. Hope you guys have a great week. We'll see you in the next one. Bye.